Okay, we're going to critique the third speech, the informative speech. A couple of things. Some of you went over, some of you went under on the length. You were required to have a visual aid, some of you didn't. You were also asked to send me a copy of the visual aid. Some of you didn't. You're supposed to have 3 sources in the speech. Some of you had 3 sources in your bibliography, but you did not include those 3 sources in the actual speech in any identifiable way. So you want to make sure that you take care of that. All right, let's get started. We'll start with runner. Your speech was short, ran 4 minutes and 34 seconds, and it was about deer hunting. This was a topic that has some interest, could have been good. It tended to be more persuasive than informational. That's kind of a fine line, but you crossed it. You were outside, and as a result of being outside, something happened to your camera. The picture was so washed out that I virtually could not see your face at all. Because you were outside, an airplane overhead for an incredibly long period of time made it difficult to hear you. I couldn't see your eyes or your face, so I don't know about eye contact. Your topic was good. Maybe it was a slightly wrong approach, and I found no bibliography for no sources. All right, freedom. You spoke about child abuse. You said things like 5 children die every day from child abuse with no citation. Don't say it was in the bibliography. You must say your source when you give a piece of information that anyone in your audience would be saying, where'd that come from? Who said that? Where's that information that I could read it? All right, this was a good topic, and it was a decent presentation, but you didn't follow up on all of the requirements. You waited too long to establish your credibility in this speech. You were well into the speech, almost 2 minutes, before you talked about your connection to the speech. You were standing next to a big white tablet. The iris on your camera picks the brightest thing, thus it irised down because the brightness of the white made it very difficult for you to see until you flipped it, and then we saw pictures, and that made it a little easier to see you. Prior to that, I could barely see your face. You talked about the cost per day with no sources. You showed pictures, but you didn't reference the pictures. What was the point of the pictures? You read a poem that took way too long in your speech. You did not need to do that. And it had really no real forwarding of the purpose of the speech. You cite many statistics without resourcing them in your speech. You talk about more than 6 million cases go unreported every year. That's exactly my response. Where? What? How bad? What state? All states? Where's this information come from? All right, next up is Apollo. Apollo, I still don't have a photo ID for you. You will not pass this class without a photo ID. And I said I will not grade any speeches that I do not have a photo ID. I'm letting this one slide, but if you do not send me a photo ID this week, you will not be allowed to pass this class. You spoke about the Statue of Liberty. Your outline has rules for the bibliography, but you in your outline cited no sources. You're reading far too much. You're making statements with no sources cited. You drop your voice at the end of sentences. I don't know what you said because I couldn't hear it. When you turn to your computer and you look over here at the computer, you go off mic. And as a result of being off mic, it's more difficult to hear you. There was a great deal of information without sources cited in your actual speech. You talked too fast. What is your credibility for this speech? I can't see anything on your computer, and stand still, don't rock back and forth. Emplar, you spoke about hospice. First of all, thank you for following the directions on the audience. That was very important. You ran way too long. You did not properly cite sources in your speech. You need to talk to me. You are kind of detached from this. You need to have a stronger voice presence. Your voice wavered several times. You mentioned a website for information, but you give no address for that website. You didn't establish your credibility. Why are you talking about this topic? Don't run away at the end of your speech. Okay, that's it. I'm gone. What was your required visual? I don't know what it was because I'm not sure I saw anything. Compose your shot by the stated rules. Watch the vocalized pauses. Is what you say true everywhere or just the places you know? You cited some very good information about hospice, but I don't know if it's just in this area or statewide or regionally, whatever. You need to be very clear on that. I heard several voices while you were speaking. It was extremely distracting. This one is Lady. You spoke about homeschooling. And Lady, this is about the best speech in the informative speeches. You had a great opening, a compelling opening, an opening that got my attention from the beginning. You also, I'm going to show a little bias here. I'm a member of a school board. You're a teacher. You said the Indiana Department of Education was a, quote, neutral source. I'll leave it at that. Your sources are not specific. In spite of some minor problems, this was a very good source, a very good speech. You had a very strong opening, an excellent collection of information. Your ending was a bit abrupt and didn't quite fit the speech. Make your ending really bring it all together. Make your strongest point there, and I think that's really, really important. You certainly provided a lot of helpful information about a topic that a lot of people think they know about, but really didn't have the facts. That was good. Watch the vocalized pauses, work a little bit on flow, smooth out the rough spots. This was a very well done speech. Bordered a little bit on persuasion, but not quite as bad as the one about deer hunting. And then where's your required visual? Next up is Boxer. Boxer spoke about diamonds. You know, we spoke previously about rocks. Remember what I said about nothing that you've already talked about? Be real careful. You're getting close. You had a blower on, I guess, on your air conditioner or something that made it a little difficult to hear you. When it went off, I could hear you much better. For all of you, you may want to think in terms of turning off the air conditioners and blowers and fans and things like that while you're speaking, if it's not going to cause you to die from heat. Boxer, you got a little lost in your notes. It's hard to see your visuals. Your camera shot cut the top of your head off throughout. There was way, way too much detail for the average person. You kept losing me on all of the technical stuff about what you were talking about. You also need to work on flow from one point to another. It was a little disjointed. Watch the vocalized pauses, the uhs. And your sources are not listed in your outline, and I did mention that the visual that you used was difficult to see. Next up is Bubbles. You spoke about dreams. You said at one point that it's a myth that if you hit the ground, you'll die in a dream about falling. That you said it's a myth if you hit the ground, you'll die, and then followed that by saying that's not true. Well, if it's a myth, then it isn't true. And do you really think that people die because they dream about falling? They die when they hit the ground. That was like an incongruity that really kind of bothered me. Your speech was too long. It went over the time limit. You cite sources without saying why it is an authoritative site or if it's ever subscribed to by the general public or the authorities in the field. You have kind of a sing-song rhythm, and your voice tends to be a little high-pitched and goes up at the end of stuff. So watch that. Cure yourself of using the word like. I like this, that's fine, but when you say it's like 10 feet tall, like, it's like really like kind of hot out, like it's really kind of toasty, like really warm, like, see, it gets annoying. Connect the meaning of the dreams. You have a lot of meanings that you talk about, but is there any connection between those things? Is this science or is it pop culture? Please identify. On one of your sentence endings, I have no idea of what you said. Don't die on your sentence endings. You just kind of going, what? What was the end of that? How did you end that? Work on your eye contact. Slow down. You talk too fast. You are reading too much. A lot of vocalized pauses in addition to like. You have a lot of uhs and ums. You talk about looking up things, but you don't say where or what the authority of the source was that you cite. That's basically it. Just work on those kinds of things. And I think that is it. I will talk to you again next time.